Let's knit increased stitches with yarn overs. Hello, I'm Kristen and welcome back to Studio Knit. If you have a YO in your pattern and you need to know how to do this knitting technique, well, this is an increase yarn over stitch, commonly used to make eyelets in lace patterns. Here's an example of my lace hearts pattern that uses yarn overs, and multiple yarn overs will create drop stitch patterns like my seafoam wave pattern. Beginning with a swatch in pink yarn, I am going to switch my yarn color to white. That will help you see the knitting technique a lot easier. I'm also filming close up, showing you the technique slowly, and we are going to be repeating it, so I'll do each technique 3 times. So let's knit it up. For our first yarn over, we are going to be doing it when there is a knit stitch, and then the instruction is to yarn over, and that is bringing your yarn between those 2 needles. And you'll always want to think about a counterclockwise direction. So then you knit, you take that yarn over, wrapping it around as if to knit. Normally, everything is going counterclockwise. You knit right through it, and here's your increase. So right there is your yarn over, and then your knit stitch. Here's how it looks on the back. So we are going to be repeating this. Now we just did a knit stitch, so we are yarning over, and that is bringing the yarn between the 2 needles to the front of your work. And then the next instruction is to knit. So you just knit as you normally would, and you take that yarn from the front, you're wrapping it counterclockwise, just like you would if you're doing a regular knit stitch. You knit through, and here again, that's our little yarn over, and that is our knit stitch. Let's do one more for good measure, and we have that knit stitch. So the next thing we do is yarn over, bringing our yarn to the front, and then we are knitting 1 stitch, wrapping it around counterclockwise, knitting through, and that is a yarn over. When you start with a knit stitch, you yarn over and you finish with a knit stitch. If your first stitch is a purl stitch, now your yarn is already in the front of your work, so you are set up for success. So that is actually your yarn over right there. If you first purl, you have your yarn in the front, so you can consider that a yarn over, because we are going to knit next, and you'll see the yarn is wrapping around and doing that yarn over work when we're starting from the front. So we go around counterclockwise, that's your yarn over, and then you just knit through, and you'll see when we began with a purl stitch, our little yarn over is right here, and then that's the knit stitch. Let's do it again. I'm going to just do a simple purl stitch. So that's purling. Now your yarn is already in the front, so you are set up. So let's go ahead and we'll do 1 knit stitch. So we just bring our needles into knitting 1 stitch, and we wrap that yarn around our right needle counterclockwise, we knit through, and there we have our yarn over and our knit stitch right there. Okay, one more time. I'm going to first purl a stitch, and now, as you know, our yarn is in the front, so we are ready to do that yarn over knit. All we have to do is put our needle in as if to knit. We are wrapping it around 1 time counterclockwise, knitting through, and that is a yarn over when you begin purling, then yarn over, and then 1 knit stitch. Oh, and if my video has been helpful so far, please subscribe to Studio Knit for more great knitting techniques, and like up this video. It really helps me out. And let's take a quick look at knitting our yarn overs on the wrong side of our work. You'll want to pay attention to how your stitches are placed on your needle and make sure that they're not twisted a little bit, which can happen when you're doing your yarn overs. So you can see these are twisted right here. There's a little crisscross, and we want to even those out before we knit them. So I'm just going to take my knitting needle and take that yarn over, get him right into place. And if you get a little bit confused, you can always look at your pattern, see which is your knit stitch, your purl stitch, your yarn over stitch, and make sure that they are placed on your needle in the order that they're written in your pattern. So on the wrong side of our work, let's just go ahead and I'm going to knit this first stitch. That was just a regular old knit stitch for us on the right side of our work. And now here is our yarn over. And you'll see it looks different. It's a lot longer on your needle, but you just treat it the same as any other stitch. And continue knitting or purling on the wrong side of your work, however the pattern tells you. And let's look one more time here at how it looks a little bit different. It's a longer stitch, that yarn over. You'll see it's a little bit looser too. But just go ahead and either knit or purl. Let's purl this one right here and show you that we treat it exactly as we would any other stitch on our needle. I hope you're inspired to knit yarn overs with confidence in your next knitting project when you see YO in that knitting pattern. Thank you so much for visiting Studio Knit. I have more great knitting technique videos linked in the description, and please make sure you are subscribed to Studio Knit. I look forward to seeing you here next time. Bye!